And there we go. So we're back on YouTube for Domainer Week, day 5, part 2, I guess it is. This is a really special segment I have here. We have one looking back, a broker who's, headed up some of the biggest sales in this industry, period. So it's Andrew Miller, to no surprise, he's been involved in quite a large number of large transactions, and I'm looking forward to have a little one-on-one conversation with him for the next little while. Andrew, I'm just gonna get your. Can you get? Are you able to get your camera on this time? There we go. Start the video. There we go. Andrew, who's in, I'm guessing, somewhere not too far from Boston, given his background. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, man. I'm sorry. I was just telling you earlier. I'm multitasking here a little bit. I'm psyched to be here. I'm also dealing with my son's a sophomore at Tulane University and stayed down in New Orleans for the last 24 hours, and so we're kind of looking at my phone and the other question. He's safe. Everybody's safe. But now we're waiting for what the fuck's, excuse me. I'm on YouTube.
It's all good. It's all good.
I actually own a streaming app where we allow any language that goes with a lot of athletes and sports celebrities on YouTube.
What's even funnier is that I'm not even sure if it's yes or no, but I know they change over time. I would like for you to be engraved forever. All this great conversation we're about to have. So I always err on the side of caution.
I will tell you that with my streaming sports platform, where we've streamed hundreds of shows, including from very, very Michael Rappaport, some pretty big personalities, every other word's the swear in the sports world. So it all goes to YouTube and Facebook, and they doesn't seem to have an issue. So sorry about that. Anyway,
no, but it's okay. Like, I mean, if you're, I mean, we're going to get to that in a second, but I mean, exactly that. You're the expert, right? I mean, it's I'm new to this. I didn't even hear about the hurricane. I've been so busy this past week organizing this week that I didn't even know there was a hurricane. You told me it was larger than some of the other previous really serious ones. I was like,
this was the mothership of Alma. This was much more significant than Katrina in scope.
Wow.
It didn't turn out that way because fortunately New Orleans built, with the Army Corps of Engineers, 8 for $200 billion levees that held and worked. But right now, for those who don't know, I mean, the entire city power grid's gone. Tulane has power because they have generators. So my son had power all night in every building and dorm and in the last couple of days, but there is zero power. The entire power tower that powers the whole city fell into the Mississippi River and collapsed. No one knows if we're looking at a weekdays or weeks. So let's focus on domains and NFTs. And in the background, I apologize if I get an emergency, quick distraction. We'll hold off for 3 seconds.
It's all good. Yeah. And those watching, I'm sure everybody understands. And trust me, I know emergencies and things pop up. And I really appreciate you being here despite the circumstances.
Yeah. And look, for those of you who are parents, right? The kids are they're cool, man. We survived the hurricane. We rode it out. We slept on the floor. There's much more anxiety on this side, but they are a little anxious about, when can they go back to school? Are they going to have to leave? Are they going to, they don't want to leave, right? So it's college. So anyway, psyched to be here, and we can get going.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It was funny that you mentioned that, your son's there, but I see you're outside Boston. I was joking last time saying, I'm actually not too far. I'm sure you've been to my neck of the woods in Montreal in your youth. We get all the Boston boys coming up for the Habs games and for everything else.
I've been to Montreal in my youth and not my youth. It was a lot more fun in my youth.
Yeah, I'll bet. I've seen a bunch of you guys Boston boys come up here, and
we hit the obvious establishments.
Yeah. So you're from the Boston area or Massachusetts. Or are you close or not? I'm not too sure, but
to you?
Yeah. So you're close to Boston, or you're
I'm 10 minutes from Boston. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
yep.
You got into this industry not directly. I mean, before domains, you were a big media player, right? You were into productions and
it's a good question, and I haven't. So long ago, man. but it's kind of coming back to being a lot more relevant today. But yeah, so I worked on Wall Street for Michael Milken, if you know who that is, and you decided, look, if you're on Wall Street and in your 20s, making a fortune. Look, I was making ridiculous amount of money following the Grateful Dead from 4 seasons to 4 seasons, when before that I had followed them from campground to campground. Wow. And I wasn't I don't want to do this in 30 years. Like, I don't want to be these guys who are stuck here with golden handcuffs because the money's too good. And I kind of ventured out and got into, started a television production company, a television and live event production company, both, that kind of created our own unique form of television programming. So that allowed us to have really awesome partners. We partnered with the NFL, multiple NFL teams, NASCAR, the PGA, multiple, Diana Ross, Itzhak Perlman, the violinist, the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers, many corporations, large, Fortune 500 corporations, and with our format. And that was great, but we started to, be like, wow, it's really, TV is tough. And unless we need our own network, and that's like $4 billion.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? And because a few of our partners on television side, I did the first ever, we put on the first ever truly cybercast of a concert ever. 1998, Allman Brothers live from the Beacon Theater, which they sell out, 6 nights in a row. And it was AOL was our distribution partner, because there was just AOL and Yahoo and Lycos. Okay. Microsoft Live was our production partner. And, we're talking about broadband dial-up, okay, to project out a concert. So the sound was pretty good. The video was a disaster. And the chat on AOL Instant Messenger between sets with the band was great. But with working with especially the Grateful Dead and the New England Patriots, which I put them on for this reason today, even though I'm a diehard fan and, lifelong season ticket holder. I put them on because the Patriots and the Grateful Dead were two organizations. The Grateful Dead was selling goods on the intranet before there was an internet, and T-shirts and things like that. The NFL teams, had a website before Amazon and the Gap. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And so we were exposed and we were asked to promote the Grateful Dead's website and the Patriots website. And we were kind of exposed to it. And I'm like, wow, like, this is how we can have our own television channel without paying billions of dollars. But how are we going to have audience? And in 1998, in those years, obviously, Google started in 2001. So in 1998, people did actually direct navigate, right? Like, type in traffic was the real thing. And that's why all these companies set up parking sites and made money on parking, which is kind of, whatever right now. But back then it was real money. And we're like, all right, well, what do we buy? Like, we need a website that we can broadcast on and that we can use to reach the world. And we just kind of, there was no rhyme or reason. We kind of thought through keywords and looked around and typed stuff into our computer. And, we ended up buying beer.com, which is a well-known story, from a college kid at the University of Colorado. We paid him 80 grand and he kept 20% of it. And he was like, I'm retiring and dropping out of school. I'm like, don't do that quite yet. Yeah. But long story short, we ended up, without getting into all the details, because a lot of people know this story and we can talk, I don't want to spend too much time, but we ended up flipping it for 7.2 million cash to Interbrew, which is Labatt's, Stella Artois. At the time,
I'm in Canada. I know Canadian beer.
At the time, now it's InBev. They were acquired, but then we're like, wow, this is good. What's next? And that led me to Diamond.com and Shop.com and Telephone.com and Television.com and all the way down till and by the way, you mentioned I'm a broker. I don't have a website anywhere. There is nowhere. Unless you read the media like Ron Jackson, there is nowhere that I have anything that says I'm a broker. 100% of my brokering or advising buy or sell is done because inbound calls, companies or people call me about their domains.
That's what intrigues me so much.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I've been an investor. I'm not knocking. Look, Drew's a good friend, and Media Options rocks it by promoting themselves as the number one broker. It's just not what I've been an investor in domains. I've been an operator and a founder. I've been on every side, buy and sell of so many one-word generic domains, from the sex.com first sale, I could list them all day. But what and it was the television that got me into that. And to be very upfront and fair, you guys, we all read about the winners. And anytime you broker a deal, right? Anytime you broker a deal, it's a win. Obviously, because that's a different, but I've had winners and losers in the domain investment side of things, developments that have been great and developments that didn't work out so well. In fairness, right? It's not only the winner, everyone likes to talk about the winner.
Yeah. Most online businesses don't make it past the first week, never mind the first year. Yeah.
So then, just kind of rapidly up on the timeline, and this is a quick little story that I'll tell. I think I've told it before, with Andrew Allerman, but I'll tell it quickly. We had an option to buy creditcards.com, and we were all set to buy it in 2001 from a company called iPayment. Okay. A struggling credit card processor that was so desperate for cash that they needed to sell us this domain name because they weren't using it. And we had a deal to buy the domain name. I think we're way past NDAs. So we had a deal. We had a deal to sell the domain name buy the domain for $300,000. Great deal. Okay. And we were all set to do it. And the day before we were buying it and closing happened to be the same day that the George Bush Al Gore election was being decided by the Florida courts. So at 4:00, I had all kinds of bets with people. 4:00, we're refreshing our browser, my MSNBC refreshed to see what the Supreme Court's decision was going to be after the stock market closed. And I refresh my browser and I see in front of me, not Al Gore wins or Al Gore loses, creditcards.com hacked.
Oh.
And I freeze and I double group, and it's links to the New York Times, and 55,000 credit cards files were stolen from iPayment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we can't do the deal. We can't buy this thing. And, cooler minds prevailed. And we're like, I guess we could buy the domain name if we have indemnities. So we confirmed that the domain name had nothing to do with this. It was their company and they just called it that. And we got pretty comfortable, and we told them we're not, we're out. And they're like, you can't be out. We're relying on this money. And we're out. And we ended up buying it for $100,000.
I was going to say, discount time.
And the good ending of that is iPayment. The next year, iPayment was the number one IPO on the New York Stock Exchange.
So it worked out for everybody.
It worked out for everybody. So, we launched creditcards.com, which is still the market leader today as a lead gen site. We sold it to a competitor and a VC that was, wanted the brand to get to the next level. And then did the same thing at a higher level, better, bigger. A few years later with insurancequotes.com and sold out to Bankrate at the time, a New York Stock Exchange company. And, ever since then, I've had, chocolate.com and a bunch. And in the last couple of years, I've been a buyer, but I've been selective when I think there's a great, a selective investor, but I've helped broker, we'll use the term, even though I don't position myself as a broker.
Yeah, okay.
I've helped broker a bunch of deals, and obviously some of those this year, kind of quietly, tours.com in November of 2019, right before COVID, was a mega deal. And then 2021, obviously kind of had three, very high profile home.com, which I know Larry, my friend Larry, if he's listening, it's all because of Larry Fisher. He was like, he saw your subject for this panel. He's like, Andrew Miller speaking about home.com. And he texts me and he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Larry, I would never do home.com without you. That's what a reef put is what I'm talking about. But we're talking about. So
I knew you were involved in it. So, and that was a big story this year. Yeah.
So Larry, I helped Larry sell it, but I really was Switzerland, which I often am. And I equally helped the buyer buy it. And again, all these are under NDA, but that's been reported. Obviously, the speculation out there, and I could say that the speculation is, it's usually it's anyone who's doubting what it was a mega deal. Yeah. And look, it was a home run for the buyer, in my opinion, too. I think it's going to change the entire state of their business. This is This is a company that did $65 billion in mortgage originations in 2020. This is not a small company, but strategically they need to move to direct to consumer online. So they're not a household brand name. So,
Well,
and then
they certainly will be. They certainly will
yes,
be.
and they're on their way. And then, shortly after that, I helped work with my great friend here in Boston, Amanda. And we sold Amanda Waltz, and we worked together on the candy.com deal, which was awesome. And then, have sold penny.com to Sykes and walk.com, which was a $1 million+ deal a few weeks ago. And then universal.com, which got a lot of attention, which I helped my great friend Andy Booth sell to Universal Studios and NBC. And I will say, if anyone knows what the original sex.com deal, the first one which I brokered was, one of these deals this year, I won't say which one was bigger than that. So been a pretty crazy time. And look, it's a crazy time in domains. It's really nuts. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and obviously 98 to 2000, and before the internet bubble burst in 2000, 98 to 2000 was, look, flippingbeer.com for 7 million, right? It was pretty crazy, but most of the buyers, I mean, look, Interbrew doesn't own that domain. Amar owns that domain, right?
Okay.
So
he's right here.
I mean, I'm saying, like, it didn't work out, right? It didn't work out. So we're now in a time, and a lot of the, I sold diamond.com to a company that went public and, went out of business. A lot of those early stage companies, that didn't materialize. We're now in a time where the companies buying single premium.com, exactmatch.coms are pretty much going to become leaders. They're already there. They're staying around. They just raised a 50 or 150 or a 10 or a $30 million round, or went public. And pretty exciting. That part of it's pretty exciting. We've actually matured. We're maturing. 20 something years later, we're maturing, and we're still not there from a liquidity standpoint. Yeah. We're still not there from an appraisal standpoint. And I know we're going to talk about NFTs a little bit, and in the difference, because I'm been pretty involved in NFTs for the last several months, and that's reminds me a lot of the 98 to 2000 of domains in many ways, except the liquidity is crazy. There's just immediate liquidity in the NFT market right now, in a way that this never existed with domains, even no matter what window of time or period, right? It's still really hard to sell a domain name. And, we have not developed yet that liquidity. In many ways, domains are a utility, right? You're buying them to improve your brand or your business or your revenue or your business plan. And, NFTs, maybe less of a utility to some degree.
Yeah.
So,
but so here's what I find really fascinating. So you hesitate even to call yourself a broker. So maybe we'll call you a connector or whatever it is. And I'm looking back at what you said before with all your connections in the production and media space, and I'm trying to see how it is you're able to find your way into all these mega deals, on either side, putting all these things together. Because let's be frank, I mean, like, broker or not, whatever it is, like you've been involved in 9 figures worth of domain transactions. I'm guessing, I'm doing all the math. I'm probably easily
solidly.
Yeah. And there's very few people on this planet who could say that. But what's fascinating is that, like, as you said, you don't have a website. So I'm just curious, how do you find yourself in these positions? It's just all these prior connections you had that you just reach out to, or?
It's a great question. I've never really thought about it. I mean, I think, well, let's start with number one, hard work, right? I mean, been doing this a long time, right? And, over that, and I took a little time off from the domain industry, which is why some of the newer people knew me less until recently. When I say time off, I still had some great domains and did a few deals, but, like, I was doing other things, and, needed a break, needed a break up, after many years. But now, totally excited and rejuvenated. But And then, look, everyone does something well. What I do, I mean, I'm also an advisor to one of the hottest companies out there in the world right now. That is was the fastest profitable company in U.S. history to reach unicorn status. And I'm an advisor because the CEO is like, I just need you to connect for me. Like, find me things to buy, find us things to buy, find us, do our domains, whatever you need. And I'm gonna sitting in a very great position because we're talking about now an $8 billion plus valuation of this company. I was there at 2 cents, 7 million. So look, I just, everyone does something well. I connect pretty well, and I know how to kind of figure it out strategically. Like, this domain needs to go here, and here's why, and here's what you should do with it, and kind of have that strategic vision. I'm a lousy operator, man. Like, and I'm not, where I've got in trouble with my domains is trying to execute myself, the business, from an operating standpoint, as an operator. I've had some, look, and credit cards and insurance codes worked out, right? Great. Yeah. Like,
I think really well.
I pulled some shit out, but like, for the most part, it's like what I do best is connect, and that's led to. And then look, track record, right? I mean, I think once you've got a kind of a track record, you get those deals, and the companies and the people call you. And then look, I also work pretty stealth. I think that a lot of the people I work with, including Fortune 100 companies, private equity, they appreciate that I don't have a website, that I'm not advertised as a broker. And that, again, isn't to knock, because some people like Jeff and Amanda at Saw, Tessa, Drew, these guys are brokers. They're officially, that's what they are. They're business, and they do great. They're incredible to work with, and they're good friends, and I love doing deals with them. But I just, sometimes people like stealth. Right. And they like the connectivity of, hey, I'm going to reach out and talk. I'm only talking to CEOs, investors, and board members. That's it. Right. If I talk to a CMO, it's because the CEO told me to.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, we're going to do it. Just give him the details, type of thing.
Yeah. Or I want you to introduce you to him to see if it makes sense. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah. I mean, but I'm certainly not. It's not a knock on brokers. I'm just more comfortable.
Oh yeah.
Look, I work. It's just me and myself. I don't have a staff. I don't have a team. So I'm more comfortable. I kind of view myself. You'll see. I reference. I say, I advised or I oversaw the sale or the acquisition, not I brokered. But at the end of the day, the act is still brokering, right? It's still brokering.
Yeah. That's why I said connecting, but it's making deals happen, right? It's making things go forward.
Deal making.
So here, I mean, here I am hearing all these deals that are like certainly 7 to 8 figure deals, all these, great .coms, right? do you, I mean, looking forward, do you ever envision a day where, the new G's will be anything remotely to what you're doing?
So I used to be non-political at all. I just anti-political about the answer to this question. I've been a historical TLD basher.
Yeah.
When I speak in the media, the only thing a TLD is a moneymaker for the people who own the TLD. They're worthless for anyone else. Great business to be in if you own them. Now I'm a little more political because there are some people, I have some really good friends who own some TLDs, big ones like donuts. And I also on the flip side, I'm still more in the Rick Schwartz, Mike Mann, Drew camp of .com only. But with that said, I do think you have to open your eyes up. I do think that there is some real activity going on with .io. Okay. I have some pretty hands-on direct experience in a couple. Very hands-on with let's call them companies I work with or advise. And, in every one of those cases, I have said to them, even if your primary is .io, you have to have the .com. And I don't want to name the company because I just don't think I should. But there's a company I advise that we were .io from day one, and this is a wildly successful company. Okay, like off the charts, and billions of dollars in revenue, and they're not direct to consumer facing with their corporate name. They're direct to consumer facing behind the scenes big time through other means, but not, they sell to consumers, but not through their corporate name. And I'm like, we have to own the .com before it's too late. And in the process of buying the .com for them, we found there were over 500 emails in 3 months that were sent to the @.com, of which at least 350 of them we deemed confidential at some level or valuable, meaning companies that we acquire a lot of companies. So companies that were looking for us to acquire them. And in 35 of those 500 emails, the email was sent from senior management of this company to other senior management or lawyers, and mistakenly, even though they were the COO or general counsel of the company, mistakenly sent it to .com, okay, which was in a catch-all for the guy who owned it. And so we got all those emails as part of the acquisition. So look, we'll move into NFTs, and OpenSea is OpenSea.io, and OpenSea is crushing it. And they're .io, right? They just did $1 billion of NFT transactions this week, in 1 week.
Wow.
And I've talked to the guys, I know them, and I'm like, you guys if you don't buy that .com soon, it's going to be a problem. But
yeah,
I think IO is kind of working for early, new emerging tech companies. So I have to open my mind to it. Would Andrew Miller start a company with a .io? No freaking way.
Yeah.
Never.
.com is still.
I think you're getting too cute. I think they're getting too cute, and a few of them get lucky. That's how I view it. But then they got to buy the .com anyway.
Yeah, and they're going to come to you for that, right?
Hopefully. So, then the other interesting thing, going on right now is obviously, so that's it on TLDs. But look, I think it's a great business, the TLD business. Like, again, for those who are in the business of selling and registering TLDs, and that's their revenue stream, look, they do well.
Yeah.
So, I'm jealous. The cash flow is awesome. It's a great business to be in. I just don't want to be a company building my future on a TLD, so other than .com.
So you see .com for next 10, 15, yeah.
Look, what I always say, and again, there's a few aberrations creeping in for the first time ever, but I always said, when I'm asked this question by, let's say, a company I'm working with, I'm like, I'll tell you what, I want you to take a week before you make your decision.
Yeah.
And I want you to do a test. Okay. I want you to watch the NFL and the NBA and major sports. And I want you to watch primetime television, watch, whatever to watch, Game of Thrones, and watch whatever, and I want you to, every time you get in your car, I want you to look at the billboards on the highway. And if you get on the train or public transportation, look at the advertisements and listen to the radio and read magazines, and tell me at the end of that week, how many hundreds of millions of dollars of ads did you see? And what percentage did you see was something other than .com, .org, or .edu, meaning schools advertise, charities. And the answer used to be 99.9 to 100% were .com. So you're talking about billions and billions of dollars of advertising and primetime mechanisms a month, conditioning everybody in the world to think .com. With that said, again, there's been some IOs that have slipped through the cracks.
All right. Well, but even then, I'm guessing, like with still the heavy focus on .com, it's I guess it's still not. You mentioned before that it's not as easy as people think it is, right? Especially with domains.
No, look, building a bit. Look, you can't. One of the mistakes I made early, where I did not win, where I lost a few times, I bought a domain name for like an incredible price, and I could have sat on it and sold it for 10x. But I like, let's build our business on it, and that cost $1 million. And now, instead of being into the domain for $300,000, we're in it for $1.3 million, and the business doesn't grow as fast enough or work out or scale, because building a business is hard. And just because you have a great domain does not make a great business. A great domain, meaning it doesn't. A great business is greatly enhanced by that elevates. Domain. Elevates. So those were where the mistakes were made. I think that. Look, I think it's interesting that, Yeah, I mean, I think the .com, the media test says, look, I would not want to be somebody. I would not, and I have incredible admiration for OpenSea, because that is a D2C company completely building on .io. Yeah. And I would not want to be OpenSea with their crazy momentum and see them come out and do a Super Bowl commercial or spend 40 million on advertising for .io, because just like the emails I just spoke about that went to the .com, even from management, it's pretty proven. If you advertise a non.com, a huge percentage of the people are going to go to the .com. And if you don't own it, you know, you're going to have some issues, and you waste a lot of money and a lot of traffic and a lot of opportunity. I would, you know, so because people are conditioned to think .com, they don't pay attention. As a matter of fact, years ago, some of the old timers here will remember GoDaddy launched .co. Yep. They bought, you know, when they first launched .co, they decided we're going to launch .co in the Super Bowl, and we're going to do with a new, instead of Danica Patrick, who had always been their celebrity for .com and GoDaddy, we're going to hire Joan Rivers and do it as make her the .co person. And they did the 2 Super Bowl, I think, commercials for .co. And after the fact, I believe the number was 93.7% of the people from the Super Bowl commercial went to .com. Now, it didn't matter in their case because they are GoDaddy, .co, and .com. And their only goal was to introduce the .co TLD to sell to people. Yeah. And whether you went to .com or .co from the Super Bowl ad, you still could buy a .co TLD and be sold it. So it wasn't like a fatal error for them. But 93% didn't see .co and translate that in that ad, then they went to .com. Yeah, that's not 12%, not 8%.
93.
And it was a long time ago, but 93%.
I would wager that if that were to happen again today, the number wouldn't be very dissimilar. It would probably be a little bit lower, but not quite 93, I don't think. But it would be certainly more than half. Certainly more than half. Maybe more than 2/3. I myself have I have arif.org. I once sent myself a work document to mail at arif.com. Yep. I'm a domainer.
I like .org. I mean, like, I think it's, I do. But I mean, if you ask me what my 2 favorite TLDs are after .com, one, if I had to name them, it would be .org and .io, right? Yeah. And look, I think it's okay to build on a .io right now because I think it's kind of hip in the tech space, as long as you, like my company, as long as you are prepared and understand before it gets too far down the path that you need to have your .com too. If you own the .com, I have no problem advertising and building on the .io if you think it's cool. In the case of the company that I am a shareholder in and an advisor to, their actually corporate name ends in .io, spelling wise, right? Wow. They're spelling their name. So they thought it was cute to be their name .io, okay? They thought it was kind of catchy, but ultimately they own the .com. And so my advice to someone who, like, I think OpenSea is almost at that point of no return where they're gonna get bit by that .com bug pretty hard at some point here. And if they don't understand that or realize it, then they just raised $100 million. They should try to figure it out pretty quickly.
They'll probably end up rebranding to something else if it really came down to it. If they can't get.
I don't think so. They're too gone for that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's what happened lately with Clubhouse, right? They just got Clubhouse.com.
Of course. But look, they moved on it. But they moved on it.
Yeah. No,
they realized it.
Yeah, the advertising and that marketing is important. I know that the one parallel, I think, where you see the two sort of work in tandem often is in gambling, where they'll get both the .com and the .net, and the .net they'll advertise because in many places,
like poker.com, of course.
Yeah, exactly, because they're not allowed to advertise money sites, so they advertise the non-money sites at the net, and then they transfer people.
Look, that's a different case study, right? That's your only choice.
Yeah,
that's a loophole. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so you're mentioning OpenSea a lot. So I don't know. I didn't want to get too off of domains, but I know you mentioned you're really diving pretty deep into this this new space of NFTs.
How many people how many people are watching this right now? Do you have any idea? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I'm not sure. I reset the YouTube every day so far this week. The YouTubes were at 150 at least, and then
Okay,
going up.
150 people. Number one, yes, I'm beyond passionate about NFTs. We can talk about why. And I don't think it's a coincidence that many, if not most, of the absolute most successful, experienced, smartest, strategic domain investors and domain owners were also early in NFTs, just like with domains. And I'm not going to name them, but if you're in the NFT space right now, you know who they are. Okay, know who we are.
You go on Twitter for 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I mean, I love the booths, right? And and they had the balls to go out and spend 400 ETH on on one of the more 23rd most rare Bored Ape Yacht Club ape a few weeks ago, and they could have already doubled their money on that, and they've sold others, right? And there's a lot of us. So from my story, I mean, I don't know if anybody read it, but you can find this, or you can look at my LinkedIn, amiller325@gmail.com. You can find my LinkedIn and read it. But I wrote a front page story last Sunday, for a week ago, this past Sunday, for Decrypt, which is the largest crypto and NFT publication on the web. And it was, why domainers are getting into NFTs, and specifically focused on the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which I had just bought my ape. And I told my whole story in the article. So I'll tell you, some of the reason domainers are good at valuing, good at valuing intangible type intellectual property, number one. And I will say that as great as the domain market is right now, and there's been some domainers who go on as far as saying they're done with domains and only doing NFTs. And I think that's also too extreme and a mistake. But what's going on we're in the first inning, if not of NFTs. And there's going to be a lot of money lost, just like there was with domains and the internet. We're going to have a 2000 moment, bubble bursting.
Yeah.
And 99% of the crap of that, both companies and specific NFTs, are going to get weeded out. But it's very real. There are some advantages of it, like liquidity. I mean, I'll just tell a quick story, and even though it's kind of going to bother me, I'll tell it anyway. And I just want to look here, because it was a story. The other thing about NFTs, right? The communities are built around individual projects. So can you imagine if chocolate.com, I bought that domain and now I had 100,000 Twitter followers who wanted to discuss and tweet and go back and form a community around that domain. Doesn't happen. Domainers as a whole, there's 100,000 people who are around the domain asset class, domains, but there's not around an individual domain like Bored Ape Yacht Club, CryptoPunks, Gutter Cats, right? And as a now, so I bought my ape a week ago Saturday, and I don't want to spoil my Decrypt article, but I wanted to buy. I was showing the apes when they were minted, and I put in the article, minting is like hand registering a domain. Okay, right? If you buy on minting, it's like hand registering your domain, right? After they're minted, there's only one way to get them, and that's the secondary market. Just like a domain, after someone hand registered, the only way you can get it is in the secondary market. Exact same parallel. Okay, but it's 1994. By the time I got into domain, I still hand registered a lot of great domains in 98, 4 years after people were registering the best ones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't hand register any of the single word generics I've sold or been involved in, right? I had to get them in the secondary market or help people buy or sell them in the secondary market. I could have minted the Bored Apes, and I never bought an NFT before. So I was like, yeah, this is stupid. And then I was sitting for my wife's birthday, 50th birthday, with my son late night, drinking a beer, looking out over the ocean on an island somewhere. And I'm like, I think I'm going to buy one right now for 2 ETH. The time was $3,500. And I'm like, and I've spent $4 million for a domain name. Okay. Nope, not going to do it. Nah, too nervous. Fast forward 3 weeks, I could have bought it for like $8,000, sitting out with my friends in my backyard at my fire pit. I told this story, and finally, a week ago Saturday, I said, "All right, I have to have a Bored Ape," and I bought one for 16 Ethereum or $48,000. That was 2 weeks ago. Okay, just to put this in perspective for everybody, not to talk about financials, but 2 weeks ago, I paid $48,000. I could sell it on. I could put my phone up while we're on this social. Yeah. And sell it for $175,000 right now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's not. That's how. That's how liquid the market is, though, right? That's my point. Like, imagine trying to put a domain for sale and saying, "Oh, I'm going to sell whatever first.com in the next 3 minutes for $3 million," right? It's an amazing amount of liquidity right now. That could change. It could dry up, but it's a liquidity that the domain industry has never sniffed. Honestly, that's number. And of course, it's for the better projects, but even the shitty ones that you can buy for like $100 or 0.01 ETH are liquid. It's just worse prices, right? Yeah. I could go sell one of my. I have plenty of crappy NFTs, that aren't working out. I could go sell one for that. So the other amazing thing about the NFT, which people don't understand, so I hope I can help some people here in the domain space to understand why we're so involved in it. Obviously, it's buying and selling intellectual property where you can buy it for 48 and sell it for 170, or if you're at a booth, buy it for $1 million and sell it for 3. That's one. But the other thing that people don't understand is little JPEG, right? This little picture of this ape. My wife said to me, like, well, I get why people would buy, like, and she comes from her father's a famous artist, okay, a well-known museum. She's like, I understand why people want my dad's art on their wall. They have company, they have friends come over, they get to look at it every day. It makes them happy when they wake up. And I'm like, right. And people put their apes, really important people. Steph Curry, okay? Steph Curry on this weekend, Saturday, bought an ape. And it's his profile picture on Twitter. It's not in my living room for my grandparents and my parents. It's in my Twitter profile for hundreds of thousands of people to see, right? My art. Yeah. Okay, so there's that component of it. And then there's the exclusive component of it. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make it very, very clear. I have a friend of mine who is a school teacher, and he's like, what the heck is an NFT? And I tried to explain it to him, and he's like, I don't get it. And then I said, I'm like, I need to find a better way. And I finally said to him, I'll tell you what. So he and I have had club seats to the New England Patriots forever, okay? They're expensive. $25,000 for, a year, whatever. And I said to him, here, we get to go see the games and sit in this cool club. I mean, we're outside, but sit in these great seats, and we get to go have dinner and drinks in this exclusive cool club before the game with but I said, what else do we get, Brad? That's his name. And he's like, well, he started to write. I go, right. We how many friends have we met over 20 years in the club? How many people have we become really close friends with from going to every Sunday for 20 years to the club and sitting in the section together? Good amount, right? Good amount. So there's a community in the club of Patriots fans, but people have got to become friends, number one. So I joined this cool community. It wasn't just the tickets to see the game. Number two, I get access to Super Bowl tickets every year, which is pretty much every year. We make it, okay? So I get to buy Super Bowl tickets at face value for being in that club. Not even regular season ticket holders get that, okay? They don't, because I'm also one of those, okay? I get a parking pass that gives me a private road for club seat holders through around all the traffic, right into a parking lot adjacent to the club, okay? Before that, you have to park like 2 miles away and walk in someone's backyard, okay? I get to go to like a special event where the coach speaks about how the draft went. So I get all these perks for this ticket, okay? So when you own an ape, you're going to get these perks in their club. And I want to tell a quick story to everybody. This, for those who are in it, they know this. This past Saturday night, everybody was given something called serum. It was a little picture of a little green cartoon thing, okay, that looked like serum, okay, syrup, whatever,
Yeah.
And we all waited. No one's. I sent my wife to dinner with our 2 other couples alone because they had technical delays and I couldn't go. Okay, everybody cleared their calendar to wait to get their serum. Okay, free because you own an ape, free. Okay, and there were 7,500 common serums, 2,400 rare, and 8 mega rare. Okay, and it was completely random, like a lottery. I had a 8 in 10,000 chance of getting this 10,000 ape holders of getting a rare one. Okay, I was lucky. It happens. They airdrop them, and you're waiting and refreshing your browser, and there it is, a little picture of the serum, little goofy cartoon thing in my account, and I'm like, oh my god, I got a rare one, not the 8, but the middle, the M2. Just to be clear, one of the 8 rare ones sold for $1.3 million the next morning. Okay, I don't want to say this because I had a lot of reasons, and I regret it a little bit that I did it. I didn't want to ever sell my ape, and I thought about what there were different things you could do with this serum. Okay, it was actually, you could use it to turn your ape into another ape, which is a mutated version of your ape. Okay, the more valuable your serum, the more valuable the ape you mutated. Okay, and if you're on Twitter, you see the pictures of the mutated apes everywhere right now. They're like crazy. The cute little apes have become crazy, all kinds of mutations coming out of them. Okay, I decided this, but there's also a liquid market for just the serum. I bought my ape for $48,000 on August, whatever I said it was, 12. Okay, I sold my serum for $53,000 this, Saturday night. Okay, hours after getting it for free because I have an ape. I got it for free. Okay, so now I own a free ape. Today I could have sold the serum for like $79,000, and my guess is it will be worth $1 million. But I had a strategy. I'm sticking to it. Pigs get slaughtered. I'm very happy with selling it, and I still get to keep my ape. Now I have no cost to my
you're
ape.
up $5,000 by my calculations.
And my ape right now is liquid for 170,000, and I believe I believe that ape is going to, over the course of the next 5 years, and all the privileges of that being my ticket to the club, like getting the free serum. I believe that ape is going to be worth $10 to $20 million to me over the next 5 years.
Wow.
Okay, so this is what's happening in NFTs, and then like domains, you have to pick the right ones. You have to do your homework, right? Before I bought my ape, I annoyed the heck out of a few friends who are really good domainers, okay, about which ape, what ape, why, how do you this, and over, Saturday nights, direct messages, and I wanted to pick the right ape, right, to buy. And so, some of these guys have spent months doing research, so.
I know what you're saying about the club part, but I just the value, it boggles my mind where it's
the value is the club part. That's what. Look, I mean, I think there's an ego play of the profile picture, right? Like, I mean, do you want to own the same profile picture and be in the same? Look, I'm in the same club with Gary V, Steph Curry, Von Miller of the Denver Broncos, Andy Booth, Andrew Rosner, Morgan Linton. I mean, multiple CEOs and executives. All the DraftKings founders, Paul Lieberman, Matt Kalish own apes. It's a pretty wild club, and I want to say one other piece of it. And it's a tight community because if you're a member of the club, you get access to a private Discord. Okay.
Yeah.
Just between all of us, I'm going to sell a domain name to someone in that community. And I'm going to get a commission that pays for my ape.
That's the part. Okay. That's the part I understand, right? As you said, like the executive club and whatever. I get that.
I'm brokering NFTart.com right now.
Well, that's good. We'll get us back onto domains. That's good. We'll hop on NFTart.com. Wow.
The category name for all this craziness. Yeah. For OpenSea's business, right? Hold on. I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm just checking to make sure my kid doesn't need me because I saw a message. All right. Okay.
Safety sound. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So I guess getting back to domains, I've done my my NFT segment for the week, but it's actually, I understand what you're saying because I don't see the value of the ape itself, but everything else around it is there. For me, domains, the value of domains is a utility, right? It helps businesses leverage leverage their marketing to bring more business, right? And to
Yeah,
enhance the value of their offering by getting more clients. And
yeah.
I think that's the big difference with domains in my mind. Why I think, yeah, it doesn't have that craze, because at the end of the day, it's not hype, right? It's a business decision whether to buy one or not. But yeah, so I don't know. Are you if you close so many of these monster deals, like, I mean, we're like back into domains, and then people want to know about domains. Like, do you have any kind of advice or tips to offer people who want to sort of start to progress to your level without obviously taking your best
And,
self?
and I want to answer that question, and I want to apologize. As I said to you beforehand, I am now I'm getting texts that kids are trying to figure out a way out and book flights, and I'm
We
gonna have to
can
jump in a few.
we can figure this
Um,
another time, bro. We can figure this another time.
but to answer your question about tips, I mean, tips about selling or buying.
Uh, Either or. I think
Look, here's the biggest problem I find out there, right? The number one problem out there, and I'm never one to doubt anybody. And if you own a domain name, you have a right to sell it for whatever you want. Okay. And sometimes someone will say to me, will you help me sell this domain? And I'm like, sure. And I think it's the $300,000 or $1 million name, and they want 20 million. And I saw one of those, I just turned down a domain to represent, and I saw it was popped up with another broker, and they're asking the price. And it's like, I'm not spending my time on it. I don't think it's going to happen, or it's realistic. Not that it can't. Okay. Someone may have said we couldn't have sold home or for what we sold it for, but I only can go by my own interpretation and my expertise of 20 years of, do I think that's a reasonable chance of a good outcome? Right. I don't want to spend a year brokering a domain that I think has a 3% chance of a success or less. I want to know at least, it's never 100. I wanted to know at least I feel like it's 50-50. And, what I say to them all is, look, as long as you're prepared to never sell it and die with it and give it to your estate, and some domainers are, okay? And they have those plans very laid out. If you're prepared to, go to the grave with it and pass it on, then I think it's fine to ask 20 million, but I think it's worth one. And I think or two or three or whatever. And I think there's still a lot of people out there. They read about a home.com deal. They read about the aberration, right? Look, I've done this 20 years, and that was by far my biggest deal ever. Like, they don't happen every day, right? And, a $1 million domain becomes a 10 or a 6 or an 8, and it's not going to happen. You may get lucky, and I'm never going to sell someone, not to do something, but I'm not going to sell. And so I think part of me says, don't be greedy. Like, align, if you don't need the money, or you don't have to sell it, or you don't want to sell it, and you're prepared to have it forever, wait, you might get lucky. But if you want to do a transaction, you're going to have to be more realistic. And I think there's a lot of unrealistic domain prices out there right now.
Yeah.
Especially with all the hype and everything going on, like anything else. So I would just tell the people to think about what their real goal is and what their real outcome is. Truly, you say you want 5 million. And I say to them sometimes, all right, so let me just be clear. If I called you tomorrow and told you I can get you a wire for 1.4 million cash tomorrow morning, take it or leave it, you're going to say no. And a lot of times they'll say, well, yeah, maybe I'll take it. And I'm like, then that should be your number. We can ask for 5, but that should be your number, not 5. And that's a lot of times I get deals done, realistic prices, and I help people understand it and talk them down into that. Not that I'm talking the assets down. And look, I love Rick Schwartz. Like, I was a keynote speaker at his second traffic. He's one of the few people that I look up to, right? And like, even more experience. And Rick would tell me he wouldn't like what I just said about the prices, but Rick is prepared to go to the grave with the domain, period. And if you're prepared to go to the grave with the domain, I agree with his stance and his valuations and his approach and everything he does. But most people aren't that fortunate, or most people don't have that longer term perspective. And Rick may say to someone, you have to play it my way. You're making a mistake. Everyone undersells the best domains. And I agree with him if they're in a position to take that stand. But a lot of people aren't. They want, it's life-changing money for people to sell a domain for $1.5 million. Life-changing money, right? And I don't want to be the guy who talks them out of that. I want to help them get that, right?
Oh yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it definitely does, because I think
And the same thing on the buying side, by the way. Same thing on the buying side, right? Like, don't pay, unless you're buying it. If you're an end user, and you have if you're OpenSea, I think you should go pay $20 million for OpenSea.com. But if you're a speculator or an investor who's looking to buy a domain to then resell it or flip it, you're going to have to say no 99.9 out of 100 times. Because if you say yes, I am so picky. Like, I only want to buy, and very often what happens with me is someone will come to me and I want to buy a domain, and I say to them, I'll pay this. I'll pay $1. And they say, I want $10. And I say, I'm $1, maybe $1.50. And they say, well, I'm not doing it for under 10, maybe 7. And I'm like, I'm at $1. All right, that now no longer is that a domain for me to buy. But then I'll say to them, I think I can sell it to you for 7. Because to an end user, but I'm not an end user, right? I need to buy it at 1 or 2 to sell it at 7 from you. But if you want me to help you sell it, I'll sell it for you because I think we can get 7. That's why I'm willing to buy it at 1.5, because I can get 7. But I'm not going to buy it at 7 to get maybe 6 or 8.
Yeah.
So as a buyer, just be prepared to say no. Now, sometimes you're just lucky. Some of the best domains I've ever bought are from large companies that trust me, and they're just like, I don't care. We'll give it to you for we'll give it to you for $100,000 just to get rid, to quietly get rid of it. And I'm like, thank you. I mean, look, Andy Booth, I don't want to say what the price Andy paid for Universal was, but he made a really nice deal, and and the Universal made a really good deal. So it was a win-win for everybody in the ecosystem. Hey, I have my, they're trying to figure out their life here in a city with no power, no airports,
Andrew,
no dorms, no electricity.
I have my little furry kid right here, and when something happens, I gotta take care of him. I understand. Well, we'll continue this another time.
Apologize to everybody. I did call beforehand and say this might happen. So, but look, I'd love to come back on. Oh, I guess we're retiring. But
well, no, it's gonna. Well, we'll continue as the main podcast. So you'll come back as a panelist at some point.
Anybody can always reach out to me. On my LinkedIn is the best way. Connect with me and then direct message me there. That's the easiest way to kind of get me short term versus email. And happy to answer.
Andrew, I'm really thankful to you for giving us a go, because I know you got the last minute calls and stuff like that, and
family first,
man. Yeah. Take care of that.
Especially
we can always reschedule.
Major.
Yeah, that's the thing with the whole socials. It's like we go with the flow, and that's what it is. So take care of it. I want to thank you again. And,
bad timing with the hurricane.
Yeah. Well, just hope next time there's no hurricane that comes through.
You got it.
All right, take care, Aaron.
Talk to you soon. Everybody.
All right, so that was the end of technical difficulty day. It's all good. Yeah. So when I started this a while ago, it's last minute. I knew there'd be a few things like this, and it's going to happen. So I'm really appreciative to Andrew for coming on. He did warn me ahead, earlier on, that his son is stuck out there, and now there's no power at all, and you don't know when's coming back. So he's safe, but it's a question of logistics. So that's it right now. What I will do is I will wrap up the live stream and the recording, and we'll just do a little social right now, I guess. I actually was